Hello, everyone. You are listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. I am Jordan Hall, and I'm pumped to be joined by Flyers pre- and post-game live host, Ashlyn Sullivan. We are live at Rivers Casino in Philadelphia. Ashlyn, I think it's safe to say the Flyers offseason has definitely picked up.
Yeah.
Danny Briere's first big trade, Ivan Provorov to the Blue Jackets. As Danny Briere has said numerous times since taking over, everything's on the table. He's going to listen on everyone and anyone. So there's been some speculation about Carter Hart and if he still fits here or if the Flyers are looking to move him. How hard are they actually looking to move him? So we figured, why not look at maybe potential untouchables?
Right.
It looks like there's no untouchables in Briere's mind, but if there's anyone closest to it, we're going to look at them. So we're going to get into three apiece, Ashlyn. Let's start with you, your third untouchable in your mind.
This list was honestly pretty hard to make.
It was.
Because now that Danny Briere made this trade, it's like, okay, like you said, no one really is untouchable. So, a month ago, I would have said, for example, Travis Konechny.
Yeah.
I wanted to put him on my list. Now I can't because I feel like with this move and the aggressiveness of it, okay, now maybe they are listening to calls on Travis Konechny. I can't imagine a team without him, especially last year, but they have all now admitted, thank goodness, rebuild. Moving in the right direction, having to tear it down and build it back up the way they want to, which is what Danny said earlier this week. So I have Cam York as my third. I think he is a young player that they want to see more out of, but a lot of potential. I would hate to see him, because you've seen this so often in sports and hockey, where you have this young guy, I'm not so sure about him, trade him, and then he goes and lights it up with another team, which I could so see happening with someone like Cam York, who I feel like is still getting his footing, but ceiling really high. And I would love to see what Cam York is in maybe 2 years in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Flyers fans, I think, have gotten really used to seeing players not fit here and then they go elsewhere and they win a Stanley Cup. Like, that's been like a running theme with Flyers fans. Ashlyn, I had Cam York as well, number 3.
Yeah.
The great minds think alike. All the points that you made, just and especially given, I don't think the optics would be really good if they actually traded him. He was passed up. The Flyers passed up on Cole Caulfield in that draft to get Cam York. And so many Flyers fans wanted Cole Caulfield. He just signed this huge extension the other day with the Canadiens. Was like a 72 goal scorer in his draft year. And the Flyers passed on him for Cam York. So if they traded Cam York and gave up on him, I think fans will be like, well, what the heck? Like, the guy that we actually picked instead of Cole Caulfield is gone now. So I don't think the optics would be good. And I think Cam York's going to be a really good player. And I think the Flyers want to build on the back end. They want to build defensively. And Cam York fits everything that they need in terms of puck-moving defenseman, high skill, potential power play quarterback, puts up points, young kid, competitor. So I think Cam York, I wouldn't really listen on him much. Maybe some team, again, knocks the door down and has something where they want Cam York in the package, but I really don't think the Flyers at all are listening on Cam York or want to as well.
And I also don't know how much you get for him at this point in his career. So why get rid of a very good player with a lot of upside for, I don't think you're going to get the draft compensation that you would even want for him.
It's spot on. And like, the position of defenseman is so important. I mean, that's where I think where a lot of contending teams build is from the back out. Cam York looks like he could be a top pair guy. And again, one of the first draft picks of Brent Flair, actually the first draft pick of Brent Flair, who oversees the Flyers draft efforts. I just think he's an important piece that I think should stay put in Philadelphia.
Agreed.
Catch all the sports action and more at Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone, including a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Ashlyn Sullivan, number 2, untouchable. Who is it?
Joel Farabee.
Oh.
Yeah. And very similar to Cam York, I just feel like there's still so many questions about Joel Farabee. And we don't have enough answers right now to say, oh, yeah, just get rid of him. He's not good enough. That injury, it was gnarly. I mean, something that was the storyline of last season. And in my year here, I haven't seen the Joel Farabee that everyone talks about. But I want to see it. And I think Philadelphia Flyers fans want to see it in Philadelphia, similar to Cam York. God forbid he goes somewhere, and I think he has the potential to have a great career. I think you need to give Joel Farabee the chance to rehab, have a great offseason here in Philadelphia. Torts has said he's going to be under our watch this summer. I think we need one more season of giving Joel Farabee a chance to play under Torts, play in Philly, healthy, rehabbing with the Flyers, and see what they can do. I would hate to see him go somewhere else right now.
It was so weird to hear his name actually pop up a little bit around the trade deadline, and I think everyone knew there was very little chance the Flyers were trying to trade Joel Farabee. Obviously, there was the stuff with his agent, and it sounded like the agent voiced displeasure to the Flyers about how things have kind of went this year with Torts. But I think Torts started to come around on Farabee, like, okay, yeah, this kid's a good player. He's important. Let's give him a little bit of a break here that with what he went through. I mean, actually, he had no chance in the offseason, right, to do anything.
Yeah.
So I really think he could be a guy, maybe like a breakout candidate again. He's already broken out. There's a reason why he's got the big contract that he does, because he broke out early in his career. But I think maybe another breakout given he's actually going to have a summer of training. Yeah. How important could that be for him?
Kind of like a comeback tour, like a redemption. Yeah. And yeah, you talk about that big contract, and my year here, I haven't seen the potential of Joel Farabee, but everyone talks about it, and you see the money and the figures, like, all right, he must be doing something right. So I think you got to give him the benefit of the doubt, that give him an off season to heal and see what happens.
And I agree that Danny Briere is going to listen on everything. I don't think he should rule anything out. First year GM of a rebuilding team, he should listen. But I know a lot of people with rebuilds are, they always say, like, strip it down, like, get rid of everyone. Yeah. It's okay to admit that there's a couple of good players here. Joel Farabee being one. Like, I mean, the Flyers are probably looking to not only get draft picks, but they probably want to get younger players too. Like, you have one in house, Joel Farabee. He's a young player,
right?
Former first round pick, has already kind of established himself. He's a guy I think that, they should want to build around and want to be here too.
Right. And I think if I'm an opposing team and you see what Joel Farabee can be, and everyone knows all about him, but I think there's a lot of questions about his health right now in the rehab situation. I wouldn't think a team is going to throw all this draft compensation at a guy that we're not totally sure is 100% healthy as of right now. You hope so,
right,
come the start of next season, but I still think there's enough questions where teams would hesitate anyway.
Yeah, is his trade stock even that high right now? Yeah. It probably could be way, way higher than it is now. So why even look to move him if you know that the return's not going to be as great as it could be?
Right.
I'm staying on the winger theme here, Ashlyn, but I'm actually going Tyson Foerster.
Ooh, good one.
A little bit more of a prospect, obviously, but I just think the sky's the limit for him, and I just think he fills a massive organizational hole, which, shoot first wingers, guys that can beat the goalie without help. Another first-round pick, 2020. I just think he has the potential to really be a huge, impactful player here in Philadelphia. We've only seen him a little bit. Had, I think, that 8-game stint where he put up 7 points, but really opened some eyes. John Tortorella raved about him. I think Torts fell in love with the kid quickly. And as we all know, Torts' voice will be heard here in Philadelphia with Danny Briere and Keith Jones. I would imagine he'd be in Briere's ear saying, hey, this kid's good. We should build around him. So for me, Foerster, I would be stunned if they actually moved him, and I think it would be a real wrong move if they actually somehow consider moving him in a package. To me, he should be an untouchable, a guy that's only played 8 games, but I think should be an untouchable.
I mean, just think about that 3-week period, and he was all we talked about. He was all anybody talked about. It was like such a just breath of fresh air, this guy coming in. And I go back, we sat down with Torts about 4 weeks before the end of the season, and we were talking about, okay, next season, what could this team look like? And he admitted, I'm already starting to write down names in pencil, but I'm starting to write it down. And Tyson Foerster was on that list. You could tell he was excited of the thought of Tyson Foerster coming up next season. I think Torts is absolutely not allowing anyone to even mention Tyson Foerster going anywhere.
If I remember correctly, in your sit down with Torts, I believe you asked about what have you seen in terms of progress? You feel like you're getting going here. One of the first things I think you mentioned was Foerster coming up, getting a taste of the NHL, and looking like he could be something. I mean, that caught my eyes. I'm like, that, wow, like the first player, like not even prospect, first player he brought up was Tyson Foerster.
Yeah, and it just goes to the example of everything he's been preaching all year is like, let's give these young guys a chance. Let's see what they can do. Hello, look what fell into our lap. Look at this guy who came up and just lit it up. This is exactly why we're doing this and why we're talking about who wants to be here. Okay, a little bit of a rebuild, because if Tyson Foerster pans out, that's a great young guy to build around for years to come.
Exactly. And the whole point of drafting him was because of his shot. He was raw in some other areas, needed to get bigger, stronger, all that fun stuff. But everyone saw the shot and thought it was advanced. And they thought, well, the Flyers need goal scorers. They need talent. He's talent. He's a goal scorer. He's in-house. I think there's no reason why they should even think about moving him.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah,
I
Tyson
didn't think
Foerster.
about that.
Yeah, and again, he is obviously wasn't really on the roster for the full season, so I maybe cheated there a little bit by going for a prospect and not a guy actually kind of here full time. But Foerster,
That's okay.
I think
you make the rules.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Absolutely.
But Ashlyn, number one, who are you going with?
Owen Tippett.
Oh, okay. I felt this too. Go ahead.
I can't even fathom a team without Owen Tippett as of last season.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a guy that was, I think, the brightest star of the entire season and really revamped his career and had so much offensive firepower. I think you need more goal scorers, like we talked about. And Owen Tippett was a guy that really came onto the scene. And I think this is a great second chance for him career-wise. I think he likes it here.
Yeah.
I think he's progressing. One of the few that really spoke highly of Torts and that relationship and that it's working for the two of them. I think you need more guys like that in your dressing room. So I think Owen Tippett's a lock.
Yeah, his maturity really opened my eyes when he told us, like, I just do what I'm told.
Yeah.
And like, you don't want every player. Like, listen, players should have a say in some things and should be able to go to the coach and talk. But yeah, I think he's a bit of an old school throwback of, I believe in my coaches. And if they tell me something, I want to apply it. And I mean,
and it's working.
He was one of the best players on the team.
Right. It was refreshing with all the negativity and all the fighting for Tippett to say, like, I'm just going to do what I'm told. It's like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Smart kid. Yeah.
That's going to work with Torts.
Yep. And it did. I mean, like, Tippett broke out. I mean, like, Torts and the coaching staff got the most out of Owen Tippett.
Yeah.
You have to think the ceiling's even higher, right? 27 goals. Would you think potential 35 goal scorer at some point in his career?
Oh yeah, I think, because it took him some time to heat up, right? It wasn't really until the end of the season, the second half, where he really came onto the scene, and he admitted to us many times in the locker room that he was still figuring it out and that his confidence was growing. It wasn't quite there yet. I gotta think, if I was him and I ended the season like he did, I would think I'm roaring with confidence into next season.
And it's not easy to trade a cornerstone like Claude Giroux.
Right.
Owen Tippett was the guy they got back. And I mean, if they actually quickly moved on from Tippett, I think that would be a little disheartening to fans of like, well, what was the point?
What was the point?
Right. Obviously, they got a first round pick too in that trade. But again, a huge trade. You want to see this player here. Like that, the point of trading Claude Giroux was to get future assets. Tippett was one. So yeah, it would be surprising, big time. And Ashlyn, I really felt this one. I didn't have Tippett. I had Carter Hart instead. I'm going to go with the guy that everyone's talking about.
Trendy.
But I really wanted to put Tippett there. I think he should be almost untouchable. But maybe just given he's 24, he's not crazy young.
Yeah.
And obviously he had a breakout year. Maybe they try to cash in.
Get a ton for him.
Yeah, you cash in on his stock. And could his stock be any higher? I think it can be way higher.
Agreed.
But maybe they do listen and try to get even more younger and try to really rip it down kind of to the studs.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if that's their vision. I think they believe Tippett's a foundation piece. I went Hart just because I just don't really see the point in trading him. I just still think he's a young franchise goalie. I mean, if he was 27 or 28, maybe I would think, hey, he doesn't fit the window. He's 24. He turns 25 in August. I think it's the hardest position in the game. It's one of the hardest positions to find guys to fill. And you have a kid here that's already established and I think can be so much better if he's got a better team around him. We started to see what Hart could do when there's a little more stability around him this year. But even if you go back to 2019-20, when they had a much better team with vets and they knew how to play with a veteran head coach, he thrived and he was way younger then. So I just don't see the point in doing it. If they do look elsewhere or if they do listen on Hart, they better get a Hall. I think they need to get a Hall if they're going to do it. But I just don't I don't see why he can't actually fit their window. I do think he could be here while the team is contending again. So for me, it was Hart. I just, if they trade Hart, what if the rebuild actually does go as planned? It speeds up, and then suddenly you don't have a goalie. Right. Yeah, it's like that's where I'm at with Carter Hart. I just think he should be here. And maybe, see where the season goes next year and then think about it again. But
I agree.
Yeah.
I think he kept this team in so many games last season, and his age, I think, is a plus for him. It all depends what you get from him. I mean, if you get an offer, you can't refuse. And I think right now when they say rebuild, we don't know if it's rebuild a little bit and you have good pieces and we still going to call it a rebuild, or is it the studs we're talking about? Because if it is the studs, then I think you got to shop him and get all you can for him.
Yeah.
But if you still want to compete and if you still want to be relevant, I think he needs to be on this team. Now, granted, you never know who's calling, what they're offering, but I totally agree with you. we will, and Flyers fans will go nuts if they don't get, bring the Brinks truck, like bring the school bus of players that you're going to get, because he's that important to this team. If they get a ton of draft picks, okay, maybe, but I certainly wouldn't be shopping him.
Right. I think that's the premature buzz out there is like, I don't think they're shopping Carter Hart. I think they're willing to listen. And maybe some teams that have been knocking in on Carter Hart, perhaps there was some elevated discussions about it, because maybe they got to a level where they started to talk about an actual trade, but I don't think they're shopping him. I'd be stunned if they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm fascinated too, Ashlyn, what you mentioned, like how deep do they want to rebuild? I think Tortorella thought they were laying a foundation last year, and he believes they're actually going up. But I wonder, maybe with new management, has that shifted? Have they talked about, hey, let's maybe strip it down pretty deep and let's really start from scratch again? Because, I think we'll learn a little bit throughout the offseason how deep they're actually going to rebuild.
I agree with these moves. I always thought with Torts, when you mentioned the foundation, I always felt like it wasn't necessarily a rebuild. It was where he wanted to get younger.
Yeah.
But his focus the entire year was get the guys out of here that don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Like, they're just in the way at this point. And maybe Provy was one of those guys. Who are the other guys that don't want to be here? I think he wants young guys who compete and are hungry and are willing to go through this for a couple of seasons to be a Philadelphia Flyer for the future. To me, he always made it seem like it's not necessarily I need all these guys coming here. I want the ones that aren't working out immediately.
Yeah, exactly. And I really do think they're going to make more moves this offseason. They have more guys to quite frankly, to trade.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure it's going to be some of the younger ones that I think some people feel are parts of this. I would personally be very surprised if Carter Hart got traded this offseason. I know there's been a lot of buzz and speculation. I just think that's Danny Briere listening. I mean, he has said it since March that he will listen on anyone, and that probably includes Carter Hart. Because like you said, maybe they do get blown away with a deal and they pull the trigger because it fits the rebuild. But I think deep down the Flyers view him at least as the goalie next year.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
And seeing where this goes.
Yeah, I think Travis Konecny's another name. I saw it this morning all over Twitter. It's in an article that it's an option and they're getting calls for Travis Konecny, which they should be.
Yeah. And
that's, to me, if you're going to trade besides Carter Hart, that's your most valuable asset, what you'll get the most for.
Yeah.
But still, man, I just Travis Konecny, he's the best in that dressing room. And he's got so much firepower. I think he's so good for the young guys. He's so good for a Tyson Foerster. It'd be a bummer to see him leave.
Yeah, and I think on a good team, he would probably flourish. I mean, he already flourished this season. Yeah. Obviously had a career year. I mean, imagine 25, 26-year-old Travis Konecny just killing it elsewhere. I think that would really bump fans out. He would. He would. I mean, he's probably getting better. But then you debate the whole timeline thing. Does he fit it? Whatnot?
Right. If he's here 2 more years, he's got 2 years left on his deal.
Yeah.
Are you going to do anything in 2 years? And is it, what are you going to get from him? That's where I get it is, are they going to be relevant in 2 years, this time period? If not, then yeah, maybe you get the haul for him.
Yep. Yeah. Big questions for Danny Briere, not for us at least, right? Actually,
a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean,
it was a tough job.
Yeah. When you made that trade a couple days ago for Ivan Provo, I was like, wow, Danny's getting to work. I imagine he's probably going to be working almost 24/7.
Yeah.
Right now.
Motivated man. I like it.
Motivated man wants to get the Flyers going again. And we'll see how deep this rebuild is. I think a lot of moves will be telling in the sense that we can probably read whether this is going to be a real long rebuild or they're starting to get there in terms of moving forward. But Ashlyn, we'll cover it all right here on the Flyers Talk podcast. Great to be here at Rivers Casino in Philadelphia. Great to see you, Ashlyn. Thank you so much for joining me. And we'll have plenty more coming up on Flyers Talk over this summer, over this busy offseason. A big thank you to Ben Berry, our podcast producer. And Flyers fans, of course, as always, thank you for listening to the latest Flyers Talk podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, please rate and listen. And we can't wait to talk to you next time.